This is the Mental Reps podcast, bringing you a fresh slice of perspective today on April 21st. A good show is in store for you, so let's begin.
You say that because...
But think about all the people that are going to be, like, allergic to it and, like, have health problems and, like, asthma and all that stuff. Like, I don't want to go to a fucking movie and have shit crammed up my nose. Like, it's bad enough that the dude next to me smells terrible and the guy in front of me is, like, brought in a fucking steak sandwich, you know?
Dude, granted that there's the possibility that there could absolutely be... Well, people are allergic to peanuts and they die. So, you know, there's... I guess we're all whatever. But if they do fuck with it and there are chemicals inside of it, if they have taken over time, because I know you always bring up in the 70s they tried and failed at smell-o-vision. But with new technology, and if they were able... Say, hypothetically, if they were able to make, like, a OxyClean smell-o-vision or something where there's not like you know, a lot of chemicals inside of it and it's going to be harmful, if we could add the extra element of smell to another sense to add to the experience, and if it was done in a healthy way, why not?
No, sir, I don't like it.
I think that's one of those things that are like, it's better off a fantasy than it is in reality. Because if you try to replicate it in reality, you're going to come up with all the, you know, reality hiccups that come along with something like that. Like, for instance, to be honest, I don't even think it'll be cost effective because there are far more unpleasant smells than there are pleasant smells, and there are far more places to use the unpleasant one than there are to use the pleasant one.
Think about movie tickets. You know how expensive that shit's going to be? You know,
of course.
Movie tickets are already like $20.
Yeah, but people are paying it. People are paying it.
I don't know, man.
That's the thing. If you can add another element, think like if you had the epicness of like a Lord of the Rings or something like that, where they come up in that New Zealand like landscape,
and your horse is shitting all
smelling.
over
No, and they have like fresh grass smell.
No,
fresh grass with the horse shit.
What I thought of when you mentioned Lord of the Rings, the first thing I thought was just Frodo not bathing in like 3 months.
Wait a minute.
You know, and I mean, like that body odor is just going to be really potent.
Who is this other person that's talking? I've never heard this person before. There's just this.
Oh, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that.
Voice
By the way, okay, this is it's time to start the show. It's episode 5 of the Mental Reps podcast. It's April 21st. 2013. Thanks for listening. I'll be your host, Brian Wright. Vic is in San Francisco for the holiday. Bless his little heart. He's out there. He has a couple cool things planned. He was in the festivities. He happens to have a microphone and a cameraman with him, so we look forward to seeing what he has to report back to us next week, as well as posting some footage on our YouTube channel. We're looking forward to that. In his absence, we asked a friend of the show, our buddy Mike, to join us as our special guest. Thanks for coming on, dude. What's up, buddy?
Hey, not much. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, man, we're happy to have you here.
Welcome.
Any personal info you want to give out to the peeps where they can contact you? I know you got your Twitter account.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's unenumerated rights. There's an 8 in there. I'm pretty sure you know where that goes.
Yeah.
And then
at the beginning, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Enumerated rights. All right, cool. And we got Rico.
Oh, yes. Rico is also here. You can find me on Twitter at Afro_sunrise. Can tune in for some blues news and podcast haikus.
Podcast haikus. And
Absolutely.
Jeffrey Dokken.
Jeff Dokken. Hello. You can find me at whatsupdoc.com.
Yeah, and he's got a really weird Twitter handle that nobody really knows
Incognito
how to spell.
mode.
Yeah. But, you can also reach me on Twitter at mental reps. Sorry, mental_reps. And Jeff has a handful of sexy contact info he wants to give you guys real quick.
Yeah, if you'd like to contribute to the show, if you'd like to send us an email, article, or just some comments or questions, you can reach us at mentalrepspodcast@gmail.com.
Word. And I know we got the social networking aspect as well, which if you want, I got the Rico, you want to tell people where they can contact us?
Yeah, man. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Mental Reps Show. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, a Mental Reps Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Mental Reps Podcast, all one word. And we will have a SoundCloud up very, very soon.
Along with iTunes, which is something that we've been working on, and that will be up soon, so we'll be mobile for you guys. We know we said that last week, and it's taken some time, but we will get that up and running hopefully this week. Yeah, so just get in contact with us. We don't share too much information, but we do try and do is whatever we do share will make either make you laugh or make you think, and we just think that that's cool. So I know that we do have a couple questions from our listeners that we had. Jeffrey, you had some of those pulled up.
Yeah, our first question here is from Christina. Hello,
and thank you, by the way, you guys, for emailing, and we're starting to get a lot of emails now. We thank you for that, and we hope to continue this throughout, every show. We want to be able to, be in contact with you guys and all that good stuff. So go ahead, Jeff.
So I guess this question is for everyone. Christina writes, would you rather be able to speak any language fluently or be able to speak to animals?
Ooh.
Any language fluently.
Why do you say that?
Fuck am I talking animals for?
You wouldn't want to be like, what's that?
Tarzan
Dr.
or Dr. Doolittle
like a
or
horse
Beastmaster Dar. No, I think...
But the ferrets.
I think it would be more practical to be able to speak any language, I guess it's because, as a nerd, that's one of the functions of the Green Lantern ring, and the universal understanding of all languages, so I guess that's why it'll appeal to me a little bit more.
I think for me, I would probably have to go with animals. Some way, shape, or form, we have either Google Translate or real-life translators. Some way I can converse with other people that I don't speak their language. But animals, if we could speak to animals and we could really know how they think, what they're thinking, how we're affecting them. We already know how that's happening, but
and they're already using research from animals, like how we design our airplanes, and a lot of the things that we use in our daily life we use from animals, and what we learn from them, their the way that they interact with, where their bodies move, their skeletons or whatever. And they've got these mosquito drones now, which oh my god, that's a whole other thing. Sorry, but yeah, man. Sorry.
But what if you wasted that wish? And then all the animals had to say was just rudimentary crap about their lives, like take 10 steps, go left, pick up acorn, eat acorn,
I'm
go
hungry.
back home. Exactly.
So then,
what if that's all that they said?
So every time I heard my neighbor's dog bark at 7 a.m. waking me up, it would no longer be a bark. I would know his plea for help, and I'd go to the owner and be like, he needs to take a dump. That's all it is.
Dude,
he just wants to go outside, take a dump, and be happy.
Dogs are alarmist assholes anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think, Jeff?
Man, languages.
Yeah.
Languages.
Man, fuck talking to animals, man. Like, what kind of input would an animal have, really? Like,
I think that you're selling animals short, bro.
Sell them short.
I think you're selling them short. Well, I think that's obviously that's a very tempting ability to be able to converse with anybody or have that language with other people. But it's something that's so... like you brought up a pretty good point that we can find other ways to communicate with people.
Technically, the way this is written, it says any language fluently. So if it's dolphin language, I'd still be able to speak it. Plus human language.
Any human language, I guess, would interpret it.
Technicality.
Well, I think that the curiosity would just be the thing that would make me... I think we know pretty much what humans have to say, or not like, of course, the potential of what we're doing, not like we know everything about it, but I think that the curiosity of being able to really get inside the head of an animal and see, you don't really know, obviously they don't have the, at least in, I guess different people would tell you something different, but they might not have the spirit or soul that a human being does, or they have the thoughts, so it's like, yeah, who gives a shit what they would have to say, but they could have some practical... some worldly advice or something that they could give to people that we could learn from. Who knows?
Well, the other thing is, if you travel a lot, I could see the languages coming into, human languages coming into the equation.
That would be pretty cool.
More so, but if you stay in the States, how often are you really going to use something like that?
That's true.
Every day.
Every day. Wow.
I just like
depends on where you live in the States.
I just like that gives you the ability to be more in tune with what's going on the Earth. And the fact is, we got tons of animals on this planet, and I just like to be, even if it's just bullshit, I like to know what's popping off.
Well, you know what? Whenever I can talk to animals, I will not be telling them what they think of you, Rico.
Yeah. Rico and Jeff are like, fuck animals.
Yeah. Hating.
Damn, dude, how you gonna hate on Bambi like that, dog? You don't know what she's got to say. Maybe she's got some profound, powerful shit that like Dokken needs to hear. Maybe.
Grass, rock, Predator, run. That's the extent.
Car, I'll stay here. You hit me. Okay.
All right, moving on, I guess. Our second question is from Sal. Batman or Iron Man 1?
Batman?
I think the specific Batman he was referring to was Batman Begins.
Christian Bale
Begins.
Batman?
Yes, Batman Begins or Iron Man 1.
I don't know, man. I'd take the original Batman over Batman Begins, personally. I'd prefer it as a movie.
Oh, you're going to old time, like a classic gentleman. I like that.
Or Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, man. Jack Nicholson's Joker was pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah, that gun was awesome. When he pulled that long barrel gun out of his coat.
I think that what's crazy with this whole the second. Obviously, this isn't about the second Batman. So it's Batman Begins. So we kind of have to, compare that to Jack Nicholson and that Joker and whatever. They're two different. But I think, or Iron Man 1. What the hell am we talking about? Jeff, you confused me. Now you confused me. But
I'd still choose Batman.
Yeah, I think that I would probably go with Batman Begins, just because I thought when I saw that the origin, to see how they did it and they returned to the dark aspect of what I thought is really what it's all about with Batman, something that I liked about the character. I think that I would probably go Batman, even though Iron Man 1 that was a sick movie. And if I was going to go along with Jeff, I would maybe have to, just for old time's sake, and because I think Jack Nicholson did such an awesome performance, go with that original Batman even before Batman Begins. What do you think we go?
I'd have to go with Iron Man 1 for the main reason that it started a revolution, and that's when big studios finally understood how comic book movies should be and how it should be handled, and so far it looks like they've kind of been taken in stride. So I'll choose Iron Man 1 simply because of the impact it's had on the comic book industry, and also because I've never heard Iron Man talk like this ever, and delivered an entire exposition while sounding like this, and it was just ridiculous.
And he's talking to himself.
Exactly.
In the Batman voice.
Or someone who knows he's Batman
tough,
already.
It's a comic book. That's the thing. It's I don't know. You got some weird shit like that. If that's the really unrealistic thing that Batman does, I mean, he's pretty much using his abilities and his money and all these gadgets to do his shit. He's not like Spider-Man flying through the air. He just talks like this and he sounds like an asshole. So it's what the hell? You can't relate to him in that aspect. But what do you think, Mike?
Well, I would say Batman Begins, only because Ra's al Ghul. I mean, I can't underplay what Liam Neeson did in that movie, and the story that was written for him. It was bad ass. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. And I think the way that he died in the movie was just one of the best deaths I'd ever. Cause I don't know, just to me, because Batman, he's got to live in his confines of, he's not going to kill, he's not going to resort to that, and so he doesn't have to save you. So
I like that. Or do we got anything else?
Yeah, let's get one more question in here. This is also from Christina. Would you rather have George Bush's brain or Danny DeVito's body?
I like that, Christina.
What a fucked up choice. That's a good question, Christina.
Good looks on the question.
Yeah, that was a good one. Dude.
Damn.
Tough
mean,
choice.
is it George Bush's brain along with everything else? Danny DeVito's body along with everything else in his life? Basically, would you rather be George Bush or Danny DeVito?
I think it's better if you just get those two qualities. None of the benefits or downfalls to the rest of it.
I guess the way it's worded, it would just be his brain, George Bush's brain, or you'd be yourself in Danny DeVito's body,
I'd take Danny DeVito's body.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'd go for that one too.
Penguin-looking motherfucker.
I can always work out, man, and height isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, dude.
And you got to just shave off the rest of your hair to make it even.
Yeah, man, because what are you going to have with George Bush's brain outside of his surroundings and connections? You're going to be... Nah.
Well, you may know if aliens exist. They might brief the president on that.
Okay, so this is post-presidential George Bush where he's got the info.
Yeah.
Did you hear about his...
But you got to deal with all the other baggage with it, too. So.
Did you hear about his art exhibit?
No.
Yeah, he's like painting now, and that's like, oh, this will be my legacy and shit. He had this whole.
He said that's really.
Forget the whole like war criminal stuff and all the stuff that he did overseas and terrible foreign policy.
Can't fool me again.
Yeah, right. But yeah, apparently he's going full steam with this painting stuff, and he had a gallery.
I know who else was a painter? Hitler.
Yeah, that's correct.
He used to paint some mean German shepherds back in the day.
Terrible paintings, by the way. It's not a German Shepherd, but he has a painting of like one of those Scotty dogs.
What?
It's garbage, man.
Good times.
Yeah. Oh well, thanks for the questions.
Yeah.
If you got any other questions to include, just please feel free to email us at mentalrepspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Word. All right, cool. Yeah, I know we had a couple before we move on. We had a couple of questions for Rico too that the guys that planned out. We're trying to do this just to kind of like so you guys can get to know us a little bit better. But Rico, you are a member of the crew here, and we need to know more about you. The audience needs to know more about you. I know Jeffrey had a question pertaining to your origins in the Jamaican Islands.
Yes.
I have the best origin story.
What was it like growing up in Jamaica?
What was it like? I don't know. It was interesting, I suppose. I have no idea, man.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I know. I hate answering questions about myself, but it's okay.
And by the way, we don't know. Somebody asked me if I knew the questions that were asked to me last week, and I have no clue. Rico doesn't know what we're asking. Just throw that out there.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot more free, I would suppose. What I really remember a lot that stands out to me is just kind of, I suppose, walking everywhere and having a lot of, not necessarily freedom, but just being able to walk everywhere and kind of just having a lot of open space to travel around. And I also remember the food. The food was amazing.
Food. And the people? What about the people there?
I didn't interact.
You were still young.
Yeah.
Your family.
I was kept on a pretty short leash.
Oh, true. So were your parents pretty strict growing up with you?
Well, I didn't really grow up with my parents, but all the guardians that I had, they were all more or less disciplinarians, and
true,
one way or another.
Okay, so how did you end up moving to the States from Jamaica?
When I was, I guess, like 6 or 7, my dad moved up here, and he sent. I'm not exactly sure how they do it, but you can like file for a person. That's what they call it, and they pretty much just get paperwork and to like request that you come up. I guess it was for like a visa or a residency or something.
Is he coming here for work or?
I think he came up here to work,
okay.
And then I don't really know what it's called because it happened so long ago. But I eventually got my citizenship, my residency much later, and then my citizenship much later after that.
Okay, so you're still in contact with both your parents? Or
no, not really. I haven't heard from my dad probably like a year or some change. I haven't heard from him in a while, and I spoke to my mother a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm. So okay. So I know that you also obviously. So you were here in the States for several years. When you said you moved up here when you were what age?
9 years old.
9 years old. So you got right into the schools. Like obviously, were you in school in Jamaica?
Yeah. I was up to 4th grade, I believe.
Okay, so was that like a big change? Were the schools different? The people, the kids, they treat you differently, or it was just they found different things cool that.
Well, I wasn't really too different. I was forced to sort of change to adapt to what I was going to. I wasn't allowed to speak in Patois before I left Jamaica because she said that the American people wouldn't understand me, so I had to learn to speak like this. So
like us whites.
Yeah. So when I came up here, pretty much that's kind of the only thing that was really ever different.
The vernacular.
I mean, it was nice to see different people because in Jamaica, it's predominantly black, so it was nice to see different people. It was sort of just like fascinating newness to me.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it was just I have a tendency. I don't like standing out, so I have a tendency to just kind of blend into whatever situation I'm in. So as far as the difference between schools, it wasn't really too much for me. I kind of just found my little niche and chilled.
True. So you, obviously, I know you met Victor and Jeffrey and all of our buddies in high school, and then you went into the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Tell listeners about that.
I was in the high school, I was in JRTC for many years, and I sort of just didn't really know what I wanted. Didn't really know what I wanted to do after school, and one day the recruiter called, and me, like a dumbass, answered the phone. And she was like, "You want to join the army?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm not doing anything else." More or less, that's kind of how the situation went.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so decide my fate for the next 4 years. Yeah, fuck it.
She's like, "Man, this was easy as."
Yeah, I know. It was really. I was pretty much already sold because it was one of those things where I had no idea what I was gonna do. I was just kind of sitting at home, not doing anything. And my dad was just like, because my dad's an electrician, he was like cutting off the power to my room and stuff. But you you brought me to electricity classes with you, so I just went into the wall and reconnected the wires.
That's hilarious.
So eventually, I was like, I guess I don't know what else I'm gonna do.
I guess not that hilarious. Sorry.
So I just joined the army, and I went to basic in Kentucky. Went to airborne school in Georgia. I got stationed in Alaska.
How was it up there?
Once. Alaska is very, very bittersweet for me. I think it's beautiful between, I'd say probably March to September. It's absolutely beautiful, especially because where I stayed was in Anchorage, and it sort of goes with solstice and equinox. The day gets gradually longer until I don't remember which is which. So the days get gradually longer until the solstice, and then they start getting shorter until the equinox, when they start getting longer again.
And it's only dark for a couple of hours of that a day, right?
So in the summertime, you'll have 13 to 14 hours of sunlight, and the other couple hours the sun just goes behind the mountain, and it's dusk for the other couple. And in the wintertime, it's the inverse, where it'll be 13 to 18 hours worth of darkness, and the sun just goes behind the mountain, and it's dusk for 20 minutes.
Have you ever seen a Sasquatch?
No. We had to capture one for training. It was actually pretty fun.
Wrestle. Sasquatch wrestling.
But we're not allowed to talk about that.
You already said too much, dude. You already said too much.
But it was interesting. It was fun. I made the best of it. I'm not a really big fan of the cold, so that was a trying part of it. But it was an interesting experience.
Okay. So I know I kind of cut you off after Alaska. After Alaska, where'd you go from there?
After Alaska, I came back and went to the Art Institute, where I thought I wanted to be an illustrator for several years, because I've been drawing pretty much since I discovered comic books, which was since I was 12 or something like that. So I kind of thought I wanted to be an illustrator, but where my heart really lies is the voice acting. And my heart and sort of mind has always been towards animation, and I always knew I didn't want to be an animator because I don't like drawing the same thing over and over again, and I'm not particularly good at drawing the same thing over and over again. So eventually, after doing I had to take some time off from the Art Institute, did a lot of introspection, and decided that drawing possibly wasn't where I wanted to go, and it was probably actually just working my voice, because I've long been a huge fan of voice actors and taken sort of an unprompted interest in it. It's always been something that I've delved into voraciously without any encouragement.
Yeah.
So
that's cool, man. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who are still trying to figure out, exactly what it is that they want to do, and there's some people that are kind of feel like they're stuck, and the fact that you had the the balls to kind of rethink it and ask yourself some honest questions and reevaluate where you're headed, that was pretty smart of you. Just gotta throw that out there. So
I didn't have a choice. I was miserable.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So
but still, a lot of people could have been in that situation and said, I just need to keep going. I need to go
stay in that miserable state.
Yeah, I was like that.
'Cause this is what you're supposed to do.
Many years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, good on you, man. Any other questions from you guys for Rico?
You talked about food from Jamaica. What was your favorite dish? Or pot of stew?
Probably one of the things that I miss. Two things that I miss the most about Jamaica is Jamaican. They have this ice cream cake. It's just called ice cream cake, but it instead of the chocolate, it is kind of how it's sort of like an Oreo up here. It's a different kind. It's I don't really know what grape nut is. It's kind of like that. It's hard to describe, but it's delicious. It's amazing. And that and ackee on saltfish. Ackee is a weird fruit that grows in Jamaica. It looks like eggs. That's what everyone who sees it says. Is that scrambled eggs?
Huh.
And they cook it with saltfish, which is just, I think, cod that's dried out and salted, and they cook it like that, and it's amazing.
So being in South Florida, you can't find a Jamaican restaurant around here that has the delicacies that you are looking for?
Well, I do, but I sort of don't trust them for stuff like ackee because ackee is very seasonal, and it's one of the it's like there's this red stuff in the center of it that if you don't take it out, it's like poisonous. So it's one of those things where...
Good to know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if it's like it's not someone from my family that makes it, I kind of don't trust it. But I do go to the Jamaican restaurants for everything else. I know Golden Crust has like good Jamaican beef patties. It's about the only place I'll eat them from.
Love me some beef patties, man.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, well, cool, man. So we got to learn a little bit more about Rico this week. So hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. That was cool. I know that we had a lot of stuff planned to talk about today. Very briefly, just before we move on, it's something that's been endlessly talked about this entire week, but this Boston bombings thing. And, you know, just before we want to move on, just touch on it. It's been talked about a lot, but our thoughts and condolences go to the families who have been affected by these bombings and the victims. I can only imagine what these people are going through. And, you know, our heart goes out to you. There are some people this past Monday who decided to be cunts. And they have identified, I guess, these, you know, information still being gathered as to who's ultimately responsible, why it's done, but they've identified these two Chechen brothers, and one was killed in the firefight with police, and the other one was captured. He's now in the hospital in critical but stable condition. They say he's heavily sedated. But there are a lot of people who are angry and confused and looking for answers, and one of the key things I think just again, briefly, that we have to focus on is identifying and finding out the root of the problem. I think that the bottom line is there's going to be a lot of people who tell you something different, and there's a good chance you're not going to know who to believe. There's a lot of theories as to why this happened, but there's I think we need to sit back and think of what we could be doing to help this situation, and mental health and education is the biggest issue I think that we face in this nation and on Earth. And that needs to be of primary importance. And while making sure that we go forward, we don't emphasize a culture of fear and mistrust and continue down a negative path. Again, there's a lot more that could be said about it, but I'm going to just kind of wrap it up there. Anybody else have anything? It's a touchy subject. You know, it's tough to talk about. And sometimes you don't want to, and again, it's been talked about at great lengths this whole week. But
it seems that's the way our country is run right now. It's run on a culture of fear, and it's the way our policies get passed. It's the way the commentary goes in the news and things. It's like shock value to get people to rally behind something, and it's a pretty terrible precedent to have when you base all your stuff around the fear factor of it.
Yeah, it's sad to see that there are these politicians who use these incidents as a platform to kind of push their political agendas and orchestrate this like narrative of fear and confusion within the masses. And you hate to see that, and you hope that they don't, you know, go too far with that. But and you start to look in the aftermath of it all, who's at fault. In the end, it's just so sad to see that we're, you know, still doing this. It's 2013, and you're going to always have crazy people, I guess. I think that what's come into play now, though, is people thinking with all this distribution of information and the massive amounts of fuckery that's going on in the world, and who do you trust? Whether it was an inside job, is it an outside job, is it terrorist people who just hate people and want to see other people suffer for having freedom and this and that, or they're, you know, what's the origin? And I think it all comes back down to education, mental health, and keeping people informed. And I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, with the mental health aspect, I think it just comes down to, not saying that this specific instance could have been avoided mental health wise, could, may not, may have, who knows, but I think not injecting your own opinions and your own thoughts on other people's lives, but staying connected with other people, those close to you. You should be able to let them know that they can come to you with anything, if they have an issue, if they have a trouble, whatever, and you should be able to talk it out. And because the longer we hold things in ourselves, the more it eats us alive. And the more that, you know, that soft voice in the back of your mind starts talking to you and saying some weird things, you know, it starts to get louder. And if you don't let that out,
In a healthy way.
In a healthy way, absolutely.
When the voice inside you starts yelling at you, you got some serious problems.
Right. So,
well, everybody's probably got certain voices that's yelling at them. But to say bomb these people, if that's saying that voice is saying that, then you got big issues.
Definitely, sometimes people need professional mental health, and see a psychiatrist, whatever. But I think a lot of that can be avoided. I think most of that can be avoided if we just talk to one another ourselves, friends and family. Just like I said, be sure to let your friends and family know that you can be that shoulder to cry on, that ear to listen to, and even if you don't have something to say in response to it because you can't relate to it.
Great point.
Just getting it off your chest is one of the hardest things to do. So that person may have to deal with it on their own, trying to figure out what to do. But just saying it and getting it out in the open is the first step. Yeah, has to be.
Yeah, good point. And I mean that does unfortunately, not everybody has a caring group of friends or family around them to do that and provide a listening ear, because I think that we that is invaluable in a lot of cases. And in these people who are seriously mentally ill, I mean, if they don't have that and they're just left to their own devices and their own misunderstandings of the world and what's really going on, because they have gotten the brunt end of a situation or just a circumstance, because you have to think of it that, of course, it's hard to put yourself in this mindset, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but this kid or these two kids, whoever they are, it could very well be you, born in a completely different situation, a different part of the world, with a different family, different friends, and different people influencing your situation. And somehow it led these kids to this point where, again, we still don't know all the facts behind it, but it seems as though one way or another these kids are involved, and you just hate to see that. And I think that it's come out a lot in the last several years that the majority of these mass shootings and tragedies are done by people who have been or are on antidepressants and on these medications. I don't know if these kids are or not. This may be completely irrelevant to this situation, but either way, there always seems to be some sort of mental health, obviously, issue behind it. And then, the politicians kind of take it and run with it with their own little agendas. But you just hope that, we can try and take short but real steps towards making sure that we get people more mentally healthy and put more importance, like more stock in that moving forward.
One thing I would like to mention before we move on is kudos to the people in Boston, the ability to come together and fortify their own will against this kind of stuff.
Absolutely, man. It's like that Mr. Rogers quote. I know I posted it earlier this week, but he's like, my mom always told me during these tragedies to look for the helpers, and it's so true. When you saw the bomb go off and you have all these first-hand people with their iPhones who are recording it all, everybody ran to help. And there are people who had to be, pushed away from helping. And you start to see that people kind of band together. And we don't have this underlying hatred and negativity that lies within us all that we just hate. I think that naturally we are very peaceful and loving, creatures. And that obviously there's a lot of different things that can come into play that, if you put somebody in a corner or in a different situation and they get desperate, they can make desperate moves. But you start to see really that people care, and they are not going to let something like that weigh on their spirit and that helping spirit, and trying to be there for one another and continue to cultivate relationships. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I would have forgotten that. Great point, because there are people who, you're going to try and get people down, and try and do whatever you can, what you deem to be necessary to make your point. But there's always going to be people who are going to be like, no, motherfucker, we're not. That's not how we roll. We are good people. We're going to be here for each other, and we're going to try and do right by one another. And Yeah. Good point, dude. I know we were going to get into this what the fuck were they thinking segment, but first off, before we go any further, we just did this what the fuck we just did this asking Ryan Rico questions. Hello, I'm all over the place. But we don't know anything about Mike, and not to put you on a spot, because I know we ain't really talked about this before. Mm-hmm. But just like a general, so listeners know, because this is the first time that you've hopped on with us.
Who this?
Yeah, who it is?
Name's Michael Stewart. Live in South Florida, and I don't know. I'm interested in aviation and air traffic controlling.
Oh, that's right.
That's boring.
Cool.
Like, no one's interested in that.
You know what, Rico?
Where'd that interest get sparked from? Because I actually wanted to go into air traffic controlling when I was younger, and I know those guys make bank, but it's super stressful.
Yeah, it is stressful, but it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could lock myself in a room with 25-year-olds all day and try and
with thousands of lives in your hands.
I can't do that. The lives I can handle. The 25-year-olds I cannot. No, actually, I was going to Florida Atlantic University for civil engineering. I always wanted to be an architect/engineer since I was 5 years old. And I was in my junior year, and I decided I don't want to do this anymore. My parents didn't necessarily like that notion. Mm-hmm. But then when I found something and rolled with it, it was aviation. It was air traffic controlling. And a buddy of mine, he said, he was trying to be a police officer. They're not hiring. And so he was like, let's think of something else. So he found air traffic controlling, and it was like one of those things like you don't think about. No one thinks about it. You fly on planes, whatever, but you just don't think like the behind the scenes stuff behind it.
Hugely important job.
So the second he said that, it just like triggered something in me, and it was like this, this light bulb went off, and I had the epiphany, and I was like, that's it. I didn't even within doing like 5 minutes of research, I was like, this is what I want to do, and I feel like it fit my personality. I have a very type A personality.
You're even keeled majority of the time. You can handle pressure situations.
So
so what would you be doing? Sorry to cut you off.
That's fine.
Are you going to be the guy on the mic like?
Yeah, we'll
land
on runway 4. Or are you going to get out there on the
basically, how it happens is air traffic. If you want to start at the airports, your plane has to come from somewhere. So you start at the airport. You have your control towers at the airport. So you have in your busier airports, you have control towers and people up there staffing it. So they're telling people when to taxi, when to move, where not to move, takeoff and landings. And then once you take off, you transfer to a larger facility, a radar facility, and then they guide you around the airspace around the airports. And then after that, you go to an en route facility, and then they transfer you to your further destinations. So if you're going from, let's say, Miami to New York, you'll go from Miami Tower to Miami Tracon, which is their local radar, and then you'll go to Miami en route. And then from there, you fly it over the ocean, head to New York, and then you'll transfer to Jacksonville en route,
Atlanta,
Virginia en route. I don't think Atlanta deals. I think Atlanta falls under Jacksonville's jurisdiction.
What do I know?
But no. But I mean, Atlanta is
a little quirky.
Well, Atlanta's the busiest airport in the world, and I think giving them an en route center is like it's too much, as is.
It boggles my mind the logistics behind airplane travel in this country,
yeah, me too.
and how many jets are flying simultaneously, and how to move them around. It's
if you
crazy.
drive by down I-95 just south of 595. Mm-hmm. There's probably a 40% chance you're going to have a plane fly directly over you if you look out in the distance, they're like taxi. They're just all in a row coming ready to.
It's a system that has been honed for a very long time, and we are fortunate to live in a day and age where it is honed to the point to where accidents don't happen on a regular basis. Because for a while, aviation was not safe. Mm-hmm. I'm serious. I'm serious in the most serious of ways, like. But it's one of those things where man just wanted to travel and get there quicker, and making it safe just couldn't keep up. And unfortunately, it took accident after accident after accident, and fortunately we learned from it. and wanted to make something good out of it. And we live in a day and age where it's actually very safe to fly. It's not the most efficient system right now because we're using 1960s technology essentially.
Naturally.
But it works. It works. It's safe. but they're modernizing, and eventually they will be able to get more aircraft in a smaller space. And that sounds like, oh my gosh, that's going to make it worse. But no, actually, it'll be even safer because with the advent of GPS and other technologies, you can get a better location, a better fix on this aircraft, and you can get it updated in real time.
Yeah.
In the aviation world, on the radar scope, you have 6 seconds or 12 seconds in between where that aircraft was. So an aircraft traveling 500 miles an hour, you're talking 12 seconds. He went a long way.
Yeah.
What do you think about like the future of air travel when they like privatize space missions and things like commercial space flight and all that stuff?
Air traffic.
Do you think that would be integrated into existing technology? Like,
Absolutely.
You'd have like a space plane like landing at the airports?
Absolutely. I think, like I said, man has always tried to push that threshold of how fast they can go, and we're at the point to where you can't really go too much faster in the atmosphere. And make it safe. Concorde is the prime example. So just the Concorde was a marveling. It was an engineering
That's
like
a bummer,
marvel,
though, isn't it?
But at the same time, it kind of pushed things a little too far.
Yeah.
And
it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, and but the next thing would be if you want to go faster, you have to go up. You have to go way high. You have to get on the edges of the atmosphere.
Less restriction.
And but I mean, absolutely, I totally endorse it because I mean, if people are willing to pay to do it, I mean, for business sake, I know we're becoming a world of technology where you can do remote meetings and video chats and stuff, but at the same time, you still need that personal touch. And when someone wants to do some, big corporate buyouts and stuff like that, or buying products or distribution and stuff, you still need that human touch to be there. And not to mention like visiting family. Ultimately, one day it'll be cost effective for just private use, public use, and you can for like Rico or someone who lives. I mean, I guess Jamaica is close to where we live, but for someone who has family in, say, Russia, and you live in the States, you could get there in the matter of 2 hours. That's just mind-boggling.
And how much more people would pay a premium, and people would be more apt to, pay. And I think that. But you're going to have to keep, like you said, that human aspect and people monitoring it, and especially with all now these drones and space flight and all this that you got all this shit flying around our atmosphere, and it's like, how the hell that's exactly why they were never going to have flying cars, or at least for now with this technology, because people would just be flying into each other if there wasn't a really restricted way in which people could do that. Or jetpacks, which I know I've been one of the biggest freaks about jetpacks. I wanted a jetpack my whole damn life, but it's not realistic.
I think Victor would agree with you.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's realistic that you could have people flying around with jetpacks, and I hate saying that. Like, I mean, that kills my heart to say that, but it's not realistic. And how do you fix those hurdles?
I think how you fix that, and what aviation will ultimately become, and also just driving in general, will be autonomy.
Like the Google car.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
California has already paved the way.
Imagine the Google car in the atmosphere, like with flying cars.
That's what it would have to be, something like that in the atmosphere. And you make sure where if you get close to something or you're heading in that direction, the computer on board will automatically stop.
Well, I mean, the computer will know. It'll know 40 steps ahead. So you won't even have to have that sort of reactive. You'll have a redundancy reactive system like that, but it will know. Like if I'm headed this way, it will know all the aircraft that are around you. What their vectors are, what their speed is, and everything, and it will make calculations thousands of miles in advance, maybe by like half a mile an hour. Because half a mile an hour over 200-300 miles is a lot. It really adds up.
I wonder if we'd have to put a autopilot restriction on it or something. Because what if somebody goes rogue? You can do a lot more damage with a flying car than you can with a flying in the air than on the ground.
Well, I'd probably think that they would have some sort of license class thing where you have to apply to get a license, and you do the test to make sure you're capable of flying a car. Because the average Joe isn't going to be able to fly
No, I
Space
know
car.
fly.
But I think that the average Joe should be able to, though. I mean, that's one thing that I always considered from looking at sci-fi games. Take Mass Effect, for example. It's when you look at any futuristic show, you'll see that the base level of intelligence for everyone in the society needs to be higher in order to properly work the technology. So look at something like Star Wars. You had some guy like Porkins. He could fly an X1. Sure, it's just
Not very well.
Yeah, so I mean that was a poor example.
I can hold it.
But you know what I mean? I think that when you say, person can't fly a flying car, unfortunately you're selling people short. I mean, people should be able to fly a flying car. You should be able to push more people into doing that.
Well, that just means we're going to have to go completely counter to how we live now, and that is keeping people educated, informed, and up to date.
Exactly. Then that is necessary. Exactly. We can't go on continuing to live as we are. We should keep trying to push forward.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because I was going to say our technology and the world is going to move forward. So if we don't move forward with it, we're either going to be overtaken by the future, or we're just going to become obsolete. So I say we should stop trying to lower the bar, but instead pursue people to try to, surpass the bar, essentially.
Hey, if flying cars get us to change our education system,
yes.
I'm all for it.
I'm down. Mm-hmm. That's a win-win.
Oh, well, cool, man. I just wanted to, again, not to put you on the spot, but I'm glad we got to do that because, we didn't know much about you either. And I just thought of that after we moved on. I was like, well, Mike's here, and people don't know who he is.
And my aviation interests are boring to you, Rico? You made a pretty good conversation out of that.
There you go. All right, well, let's get into our what the fuck were they thinking segment.
The fuck are you doing?
What the fuck?
What the fuck you doing, man?
Nigga, what the fuck? What the fuck is with this guy?
I'm truly sorry. It was a mistake on my part, and I sincerely apologize.
All right, this is what the fuck were they thinking. I guess we're going to start off this week with Zoe Deschanel was a Boston bombing suspect, according to this local Fox station's closed captioning. I guess this radio producer, writer buddy was sitting watching the whole coverage of the Boston bombings, and all of a sudden, then he got a screen capture, which was like clutch, which I don't know if he had DVR or how he got it, but it says marathon bombing. He is 19-year-old Zoe Deschanel. And they called us, I guess she tweeted about it and everybody freaked out about it, but way to go, local Fox news station in Boston.
That misinformation was spreading like wildfire.
Yeah.
It's like the real-time internet version of that stupid game where they give you a message to pass down the line. The first person is
a telephone.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was like an honest to God mistake, or if somebody was just fucking around.
You know what? I hate Zoe Deschanel.
You know what?
The guy's name,
Zoe,
he was the Chechnyan guy. I mean, it was pretty similar to Zoe Deschanel. So there could have been some confusion there, but
maybe a convenient confusion.
I don't know. That's
well, Zoe Deschanel is one of those actresses that's weird enough that people probably wouldn't know who she is, or at least not by name.
Yeah, unless you watch a lot of chick flicks or Apple commercials.
By the way, Zoe, if you are listening, I love you passionately, and I would like to marry you. Yeah.
Dude, she does. Here's the thing: is she's kind of like it's like
quirky.
she's trying to be too quirky. But I mean, I can get how a lot of people find it, and she's beautiful. I mean,
let it
those
slide,
eyes,
man.
bro.
It's cool.
Yeah,
I bet you would let it slide, Jeff.
Yeah, I bet you would. But I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't kick her out of bed for eating crackers, but I'm not going to exactly go out of my way to. She's a little too oh, look at me, I'm so individual.
You're a little bit too rainbow for me, sweetheart.
Okay, yeah, you are. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an asshole. She's it just seems like she tries a little hard too sometimes to me. But well, also this dude, 27 years, this fucking guy. Did you guys hear about this hermit dude who was caught in the woods? I guess he was since 19 years old. I guess they called him the North Pond Hermit. That's pretty bad when that's like your nickname, what people know you through life. Christopher Knight. He disappeared at 19. He lived off of stealing food and supplies from this woodland camps in Maine. And this guy, I guess recently he was arrested because finally this one place that he was just hitting over and over and over again over the years, they finally set up like some alarm system, and they caught his ass. And
That
this
guy must
guy
have been freaking out, son.
He said he passed somebody on a trail and just exchanged a common greeting of hello, and that was the only conversation or human contact he's had since he went into the woods in 1986.
Wow.
So this son of a bitch gave somebody a passing greeting, and he hasn't talked to anybody since the mid-'80s.
That's like introvert to the max, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He's still working off the old aviator like glasses, the Coke bottle
That
glasses.
dude is probably nuts.
Super creepy
What about
looking.
trying? I mean, like now he's forced back into society, being in jail or whatever, prosecution or whatever. But I mean, like, how do you go from the mid '80s to now? And think about the internet. The internet at its infancy there, you know, and social. I mean, just everyone having a mobile phone. You know, not a mobile phone, but
I guess he had a
smartphone and
radio. He had a battery. He had propane cooking stoves, a battery-run radio he used to keep up with news in a rock station, a local rock station, I guess they had. And, yeah, man, how do you go from being out in the woods of Maine?
At least he wasn't stuck in the woods listening to like Devo for 20 years. He had some sort of radio.
That guy took hide and seek very seriously.
How do you relate to the news? He doesn't know what an iPhone is. I mean,
and he's got to be hearing a ton of things on that radio that it's got to be like
no
Russian
idea what
submarine
the fuck it is.
instructions.
I mean, he doesn't know what
does that
Al Qaeda is.
Yeah,
and,
what does that mean?
You know, I mean, like
Debit card?
so it's like
debit
what?
card use.
I don't know. That's just
And
boggles my mind.
I guess he had like this whole little campground set up. He was just stealing food from these campgrounds, and actually, this one that he stole from a campground for people with special needs, he kept on hitting them. And
Easy targets.
Yeah, that's fucked up to the max. A whole big bowl of fucked up.
The slow-moving targets are always the one that get picked off first.
He used to use these like campgrounds, like Walmarts. He'd go and steal sleeping bags, and he set up like this whole little thing, and that's how he stayed cold or warm, because when it was super cold out, he didn't want to light a fire to bring attention to himself.
Yeah.
So they said he just wrapped himself in tons and tons of like, you know, sleeping bags and blankets to keep himself warm. Do you know how fucking cold it gets in Maine in January?
Yeah.
How did no one stumble upon him? Like, just I mean,
He
like,
was up
No
there.
one's going out into the middle of the woods.
but at some point in time
over
over the course of how long we're talking about, someone had to have just like randomly like gone hiking, you know, whatever, and found like, I don't know.
What's crazy is he's all clean shaven. He's not like
he's like the
mountain
master
buddy.
of disguise.
Yeah, that guy is like
He
naturally...
needs to be hired,
he's
and
like
like
the real
he
life
needs to
solid
teach
snake.
like snipers and stuff, like who have to like hide
Somebody
and, you know,
needs to
crawl like
utilize his talents.
miles.
Yeah, and think about it, because he was clean shaven. He has these like, you know, old style aviators on, but he was probably staying clean shaven. So if he was going to get like that look, he could maybe, you know, stay
Blend
under
in.
the radar a little bit and
Yeah.
blend in.
Well, you know, I've been wanting to take a survival course for the longest time. So I mean, like, who better to go to than this guy?
Yeah, dude. If
You
we
know,
get,
I mean, like
him and Steve
I mean, like,
Rinella or
I don't want
something.
some like professional guy who's been studying all these books and stuff. You know, lives on his own, like, you know, like
It's like eat a dick, Bear
Kind of
Grylls.
I don't
on
want to
our-
know how
I
to
wanna go
live
to
off
this
of
guy.
slugs. I want to know the campgrounds to go
Yeah,
steal, so I can
exactly.
get like.
That's not like
this
real
guy.
survival, though. You're just like
or is it?
surviving off the backs of other people. Like
Yeah.
you're not foraging for your own food. You're
Off
not hunting.
special
You're not
needs
trapping.
people.
Yeah, you're like stealing from retards. Excuse my horrible.
Well, I mean, well,
vernacular
whatever.
here.
But yeah, dude, it's fucked up, man. This guy has been doing it, so I don't know. Somebody's got to tap into his talents, because you don't just do that. And I don't. I wonder if he's got some beautiful mind thing going on. If he's actually
Maybe he just hates people.
maybe he just
leave the guy alone.
I wonder if he
Yeah.
had some books. If he's like super intelligent, buddy, and that's how he's kind of kept. But obviously, you are not mentally healthy if you are living in the woods of Maine for 27 years, and you've talked to
Yeah.
one person
Yeah.
since
Yeah,
1987.
If you haven't had human contact in that long, son.
I can't gauge his mental stability based on a story like this. You know, like, sure, he's out in the middle of the woods, but you haven't talked to him. You don't know what he's doing. Like, he could be like, he just doesn't like people. He likes to be by himself.
I'm not saying that I think that he's you know,
I think you can.
I just think it's strange,
You
dude.
see-
Look at the facts. Yeah.
But not that. It's like I see where Jeff is coming from, but the fact that he went to such an extreme is what would lead me to believe that he's not all too well. Usually, when you have a problem, you don't really go to
You're not trying to
that
hide.
far in order to resolve the issue. You just it's like, oh, I'm in a 27 years, really? Come on.
I think the bigger thing is
I don't think
how,
he's with him now.
how is his English? Like,
Is he gonna owe taxes?
Yeah,
Are
is
they gonna
he-
like try to
I-
tax him for some
Probably,
reason?
who
Like back
knows?
tax? Like
How do you
Wesley
pay
Snipes?
taxes off stolen goods in the woods?
is there going to be like a class action lawsuit of, 15 years worth of candy?
They said that they're
candy and
supposedly they're trying
popcorn
to-
stolen from campsites.
Yeah,
and-
there's over. He's now been arrested for the at least the thefts that they caught him doing, which they think could amount to well over 1,000. So they're gonna try and like get him on whatever they think that they might maybe get a confession. Who knows what they're trying to do?
Yeah, and make him pay back all that stuff that he stole, all that money he has.
So let's put him in prison
Yeah.
so we can pay for him with our tax dollars
yeah.
when he was just up in the woods. Not well, I guess he was hurting people. He was stealing from them. So
But at
like,
least it was
mentally disabled.
physically harming them, or like terrorizing them. It's like he like came to the campsite.
Like
Like,
maybe he
"Oh!"
watched so I will whether I have to beg, borrow, or steal, I will never go hungry again. Yeah. It's very weird either way, man. I mean, it's kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's got his reasons, but I think he's probably pretty fucked up. So approach with caution. Speaking of approaching with caution, Dennis Rodman and North Korea, they're getting to be little bosom buddies. Kim
Dude,
Jong-un.
he's definitely a spy, Sam.
He's saying now that he said that he's been contacted by the FBI and he met with them and they wanted to know what went on and who's really in charge in North Korea. And he's saying he's like FBI informant buddy now. Which, if you're relying on Dennis Rodman for like information or intelligence,
But who else would you send to infiltrate North Korea?
maybe it's brilliant. And
Exactly.
he's saying that he thinks that he could be like a legitimate like player and getting this all worked out. He's like, I think we just need to sit down with this guy and be like, yo, man, we're all friends. And he's going to solve it all.
Well, the Un family, they were all like really westernized, anyways. They liked our media and our movies and stuff, and for him to get a basketball star over there to talk with him and just be chums.
Especially Dennis.
Amazing for him.
Especially Dennis, attention-loving Rodman. Yeah.
They love basketball there. Like they
Wasn't
like
his dad like
idolize
the biggest?
NBA Bulls fan.
Well, he was a big NBA fan, but he also was the largest consumer of Cavassier in
Oh,
the
yeah.
world.
Yes.
In the entire world. Which it's funny, like I guess there are certain sanctions that allow them to be able to still get certain goods for him in particular, but the sanctions are applied. I don't know how they can get certain things and how they can't, and to what extent, but obviously he's got a lot of money, so they'll find ways. But supposedly he was like the legit number one consumer of Cavassier. I thought that was pretty
Pass
funny.
the Kavasi, yay.
And just going from one dictator to another, this guy, Saddam Hussein's ass. Hey, if you guys want to go and buy Saddam Hussein's ass, you can just be redirected to a online auction. And this guy, SAS Soldier, I guess he's trying to sell the buttocks of the bronze statue of Saddam Hussein, which was pulled down back, 10 years ago last week? 2 weeks ago? That was 10 years ago. I guess, which was symbolizing the end of his reign. And this former paratrooper, this guy, he was in the Gulf
Piece
War.
of that ass.
And he was
Ass,
in Baghdad's that
ass.
square in the day after the incident, and where they were surrounded by the tanks and everything, and they helped pull it down. And he asked the Marines guarding the statue if he could take a piece of it, planning to sell it.
Yo,
Like, you wouldn't
let
take
me
the
get
head?
a piece of that ass.
Right? Like that's the piece that you wanted.
Would it-
Like
I think that's the best piece to have. Or I guess you maybe want to get like the face, if you get some stash in there, something like that. Maybe that'd be the only thing that's better.
So these guys had to have been bribed with something to let him take it. So Rico, do you think it was like the M&Ms from their MRE, or what do you think it was? what would you have taken to be like, yeah, you can take Saddam's butt,
It depends on what they had, Ben. When that shit was first happening, there were a lot of goodies being like disseminated. Which league? We're not allowed to do that. That's like one of the first things they tell you. No war trophies. You're not allowed to take anything that was not issued to you.
And apparently the Saudi government, or the whatever it was, they wanted to like prevent him from selling it or something.
Yeah.
He wanted to get 250,000 euros, which
380 grand.
380 grand.
But you didn't meet the reserve, right?
No, it wasn't sold. So if anybody wants to buy a piece of world history in the form of a butt, 380 grand will.
Yeah,
will
that
get
is kind of significant, isn't it?
Yeah, they were trying to, I guess, get to where this guy couldn't sell it, but he's pretty dead set on doing that. So, yeah,
I was actually in Iraq when he died and when he was captured.
If you were some crazy, like, eccentric billionaire, buddy, I would pick that up.
Hell
just
yeah.
to say that I had it.
With that shine coming off the mantle.
Put it above the
glorious
mantle.
golden haze.
Put it by the pool or something.
I'm going to go wax that ass.
Okay. All right, well, just...
Grab a towel and actual sheet. Excuse me.
We're going to, really quick, just bang out a little sports because there's some stuff happening in the sports world. Obviously, last night, Andre Miller finished the game-winning layup to give the Nuggets that game-1 win last night.
Speaking of that, does anyone else think he looks like Jay Chandrasekhar, which is the Indian guy from... What's his name? From Super Troopers. You are freaking out, man. The whole time I was seeing him,
Andre Miller. And Jay Chandrasekhar, whatever.
Chandrasekhar. Have you ever seen Super Troopers?
Of course I have.
Okay, he's the Indian guy from the Super Troopers lineup.
Mother of God.
Yeah, that's the
Enhance. He does look a little bit like him.
He looks more so like him now, not with that long hair from that picture. Because from last night, he has the short hair. And
maybe a little bit.
He looks a lot more like him then.
Actually, no, dude, you're dead wrong. I don't know. He doesn't look... the first picture I saw, maybe a little bit.
How about you look at the picture from last night? Because that's when I saw him, and that's the picture that I'm making a comparison from.
Well, we're not going to make it that convenient for you. We're just going to let you hang there.
Exactly. We're just going to take a picture that looks completely different from the one you're talking about and say that you're full of shit.
That's how we roll.
That's how we do, dude. Leave them hanging, bro. But we got... So the playoffs started. Miami today. We're playing Milwaukee game 1. In the East, you got a lot of good matchups. I think that the Boston-New York matchup is going to be fun to watch. I would like to see Boston beat New York just because as much as I hate both those teams, I think that the New York Knicks fans and the team especially too, they're just delusional. I think that they're going to get taken down. Anybody in particular,
words,
and if you look at Indiana versus Atlanta, Brooklyn versus Chicago, there's some decent matchups. Again, nobody that I think can even come close to beating the Heat in the 7-game series. But and then if you look at the West, you got Oklahoma City versus Houston, which that is a nice little matchup there. You got James Harden versus ex teammates. San Antonio versus the Lakers, so I think that the Lakers are going to get beat up. Denver playing Golden State. That's a really... I know you were mentioning last night that's a really sexy matchup. And you got the Clippers in Memphis. Anything in particular that you think, like... I know... Again, I just don't see anybody that's going to be able to beat the Heat. But if you look... The playoffs are always entertaining. And the fact is you got so many great players in the game now that you could go and watch any single one of these games, and you're bound to have enjoy the experience and at least get a really high level basketball.
Yeah. No, there's other good teams out there. I mean, San Antonio and Oklahoma City. I think those are the only two major contenders out of the West. And stats wise, obviously too. But the Heat. I mean, if you just look at the track record. And a lot of times when it comes to sports, it's who's hot at the end, And what did the Heat do this year? They had a 27-game win streak. It was broken. And then what they went on an 8-game winning streak, the longest win streak at the end of the season. So it's not like we're going to the playoffs cold. No. And during that streak, they didn't have LeBron for most of the games, didn't have Wade for most of the games. One game we won, I think it was against the Pistons. We didn't even have our starting 5 in.
That final 8 streak, game streak. Yeah.
So I mean, it's like, if you just go off that standpoint of they're just hot going into the playoffs. That's enough. But all the other intangibles, you got greatest player on the planet on your team, and I mean they're all working together.
Galactic
shooting.
champion,
The outside shooting,
galactic champion, sir.
yeah,
Galactic
he's a freak.
When you got
Absolute freak.
when you got LeBron and D Wade in that transition game, and our outside shooters are making shots, and this awesome boost of energy in the Birdman when we signed Chris Anderson.
Yep.
He's going to be so awesome come playoff time, and it's here. And I think that you're really going to see the value in having a guy like that and be able to be a presence in the paint while also be somewhat reliable offensively, because that's something we always had with our center situation, and we've got great defense. And that's why we've moved Chris Bosh to starting center, try and get some sort of offense out of that, because Joel Anthony, although I love him to death and he's great on defense, he's just an offensive liability. So being able to have Birdman in there now just to add that other energy and boost off the bench, and we just got so many 3-point shooters.
We got a Birdman, we got a Velociraptor, we got a Galactic Champion.
Yeah,
it's a pretty nice roundup.
We got Flash.
Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
It's coming.
I think
The closest thing to a mutant league so far.
I think the biggest thing is, who does everyone want to see the Heat play?
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're going to have a rematch of Oklahoma City, I don't think everyone really wants to see that, because I don't think most people don't think that they have a chance. So then the other thing is, do you want to see San Antonio play us? But then the other thing is, when San Antonio plays in any sort of game, the ratings just drop.
Yeah,
David Stern has hated the Spurs for the longest time, because nobody watches the Spurs. I mean, but that's the crazy thing is,
in Dokken, he's not very
their whole team, they're not flashy.
Yeah,
they
they're
don't
not flashy,
speak out a lot.
normal.
They don't make controversy. But that's the thing, they're always in the
there.
playoffs.
Yeah, always in there.
They're such an incredible team for the past since Tim Duncan has been on that team.
Yeah.
They have been in the playoffs virtually every single year. And
David Robinson before then, he was holding it down, and then when they got the two of them, it was
so it's a shame they don't get the credit and the viewers. But maybe the NBA just needs to go about, instead of hating on them, maybe try and get people to watch them.
Yeah.
Promote Tim Duncan and players more.
We need to clone the '96 Dream Team and just have them as the championship, and the Heat versus the '96 Dream Team would be an excellent match.
Any idea how much I love that? Well, that's the thing is, historically, I mean, you look at the teams, and in the NBA, more so than I believe any other sport, or at least out of the four major sports, that's not a ton of parity when it comes to playoff time. You're going to have those few teams like Memphis that can surprise you, or whatever. They'll get to a conference finals or something. But the majority of the time, even at the beginning of the year, or especially midway towards the end of the year, who's going to really be in there at the end.
Yep.
And if you just look at the playoffs, if you look throughout the East, we've got Milwaukee straight off the bat, and then anybody down this list, again, you could say that we could get a loss here and there, but I think that there's one thing that the Bulls or the Heat are very good at, is changing their game and being able to adapt and figure teams out. And I just don't see how teams are going to be able to pull off multiple wins against us, especially when we're going to have home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs, something that we didn't have last year. We were playing in Oklahoma City those first two games of the championship last year. So, and like you said, there's a lot of anything. I think that the West is a little more open to who could come out. I think that the Oklahoma City-Houston series, although I think is going to be a really great one, because I think that Houston's going to come out pumped and they're going to get a win or two. I think that one's going to be wrapped up, and you're going to have your San Antonios and Denvers. I think the Lakers are toast. But I would I would ultimately, before Kobe's done, I would love to see a Lakers Heat. I mean, I think everybody would love to see a Kobe versus LeBron championship series. Because if you look throughout the history, we've had a Bird versus Magic and stuff like that. But to be able to have two dudes who have been pretty much thought to be, at least out of the guys who are playing since Jordan, the best players in the league since Jordan. And we didn't get that Kobe versus Jordan or you know, I just think that would be such a sexy series to be able to see, but that's not going to happen, I don't think, especially now with Kobe being done for the year. We're going to have to hope and see if that will happen next year. But in the meantime, you know, I think that we're going to just roll.
Yeah, but I mean, last year we got to see LeBron versus Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant, he's, you know, rising star. Like, we're all going to be saying, you know, 5 years from now, like, you know, like the things that LeBron's doing now, we're going to be saying Kevin Durant is doing those things. You know, not necessarily like in LeBron's way, but I mean, Kevin Durant is such an incredible player. Young,
he deserves more respect.
He deserves a lot of respect, and I mean, scoring champion 3 times. He shot 50% from the field, 40 from 3, and 90% from the free throw line this year. I mean, that's just. And those statistics are incredible.
You saw at the end of that championship last year when the Heat beat the Thunder, and he was going back into the locker room, that heart-wrenching shot of him, like, trying to keep it together, and then he saw his mom and just, like, lost it.
Yeah.
And you could tell that, like, it meant so much to him, and that he's, I think, going to benefit a lot from LeBron. And I know that might not sound, but he's going to benefit a lot from him because they are friends, and he's going to be able to learn from him and see that, you know, through tough times and tribulations and having to go through this, he's basically earning his right to where when he does, hopefully, you know, and I hope that Kevin Durant ends up getting it. I like Durant a lot, but when he does end up getting that championship, it's just going to be all that much more. It's going to mean all that much more to him, and you can tell that he's not here just to be scoring champ or whatever. He's not like a Carmelo Anthony. He just wants his touches, and that's it. He gives a shit. Yeah. And I think that he's going to be. I think that they fucked up getting rid of James Harden. That, I mean, I realize that contractually there could have been things that were pushing him to do that, but I think that if they were able to keep that together, maybe they would have had a shot to add a few more pieces together.
Yeah, he's coming off the bench. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, man, I still don't understand that. But either way, so yeah, the NFL or the NBA playoffs are underway, so we're pumped about that. And you saw that Brandon Jacobs predicted that the Heat were going to lose in 6 to the Bucks, and D Wade's reaction was just priceless. Yeah. I mean, I understand that you got to have confidence in your team. If you're going to go out there and just be like, oh, all right, well, we're going to lose this one, hopefully, whatever, then there's no reason. And these guys are NBA players at the end of the day. They are all badass athletes, and they're not they're there for a reason because they're competitive or whatever. But yeah, I don't think that's. But
the last thing you want to do is put fuel on the fire for Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, you know, Ray Allen, like
exactly.
I mean, all these veteran guys who you start talking a little trash to them, and they expect it.
It was the context. The context of the conversation was the guy's like, "Do you think you have a chance?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, you think you're going to win?" He's like, "Yeah, in 6." And he's like, "Oh, really? Okay." So it was kind of within the conversation. He was asking him the question, and it just kind of, it wasn't like, "Yo, we're gonna beat the Heat in 6. Fuck y'all." It was, you know, whatever. That's cool. Hopefully that I would like to see them, like, you know, make a game out of it or whatever. I don't want them to win, but I hope that they make it, like, you know, competitive.
Yeah.
And last thing before we move on from the NBA, that Derrick Rose is doubtful for return, which is very weird. You see him out there in shoot-arounds and stuff. It seems like he's fine. He's gotten, like, medically cleared to play, but he's not playing. I guess he's still having some issues, and you do know your body better than anybody else. But
it's kind of like Steven Strasburg last year when they shut him down during the playoffs. You know, after coming back from Tommy John's surgery, it's what you got to do. You know, if you can't make the recovery, there are specific guidelines, and you can only work so much. And when it comes to sports medical science nowadays, they literally have it down to a science, like perfected. And
there's money to be made.
Absolutely. I mean, look at
endorsement deals.
Adrian Peterson coming back from a double ligament tear. Yeah, I mean, that's had one of the greatest running back seasons in the history of the NFL has ever seen. It's mind-boggling.
Unreal, isn't it? I still don't understand how that meant. Well,
Alien
I think
technology.
there's a lot of he did a lot to a lot of treatment, and that guy is just a freak. But to think that guy, even with the help of medical technology and everything that it is nowadays, that he could come back after blowing your knee out like that and have become, what was he, like a dozen yards short of less than a dozen yards short of that record?
That sounds like classic Zenzu bean action, man.
Yeah, maybe he's using
Yeah,
the antler spray or whatever.
Apparently, the NFL has connection to corn.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're connected with Monsanto. Monsanto in bed together. Genetically modified bees treating our players. Real quick, yeah, that Jordan. Did you hear this story? I know I briefly brought it up, but Jordan, the guy, his trainer from the Bulls, I guess he said that he was, that epic flu game that back in the day they were playing the Jazz, and it was very strange the way it kind of came and went, and some people were saying it was like food poisoning, but they were saying it was a flu. And this guy, I guess his Tim Grover, he was a former personal trainer for the Bulls and for Michael Jordan, and he said that I guess the team was in Park City, Utah before the game the night before, and it was too late to order room service, so they called this pizza delivery place to deliver to the hotel, and 5 different pizza guys showed up from the same place to deliver this pizza, and he just had a bad feeling about it right away.
Were they like laughing at him when they came up?
I don't know.
Why don't you eat your pizza, Jordan?
But I guess supposedly out of everybody in the room, MJ was the only one who ate it. Nobody else ate it, and then by 2 o'clock in the morning, he was, from what this guy is saying, he was in the room in the fetal position. He couldn't move, and they had to go and get the team physician, and I guess they determined that it was food poisoning and not the flu. And he couldn't get out of bed, but somehow I guess he got to the facility, pardon me, 3 hours before the game, tried to hydrate because he was super dehydrated, and he ended up playing 44 minutes and scoring 37 points. So he toughed it out.
That switch, man.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It's funny how something like that could backfire. You think,
push it to the limit.
Yeah, I'm going to poison this motherfucker. We're going to win this game. How can he play poison? What somebody pulled the old Visine on the.
Probably Karl Malone. He squirted a whole bottle of Visine
on the meat lovers or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, man, that's crazy. It's a different way to look. There's people, one hater in particular, I think it was Jalen Rose, who came out and said that he thought that it was a hangover like a couple months ago just to try and but the infamy, like the legendary status that Michael Jordan is already in, this just kind of already adds to that, like somebody is going to poison your ass and you're still going to go out there for 44 minutes and score 37 points. But on a more serious note, something that is going on in current events that we think that you guys need to pay a lot of attention to, that we are paying a lot of attention to, and we just think that it's information worth sharing, is that Cispa. This Cispa Act, it was the U.S. House of Representatives. They passed it's a Cyber Information Sharing and Protection Act, basically making it legal for websites to give your personal information to the U.S. government without your permission. And they're designed to, Cispa is what they're saying, designed to combat this cyber threats by making it easier for law enforcers to get at web data, basically giving them the right to police the internet. And this is a very serious topic because you can say, yes, it's very important. You want to stop hackers and cyber threats and people from all over the world and being able to do these horrible things, but you are giving the power to the government, which is supposed to be elected by us and be there for us to watch over for us, and they want to police the internet and be able to say, okay, we can close that website down if we want to, we can take this piece of information if we want to, without any legal ramifications whatsoever. Mm-hmm. That's huge, and we are going in this new kind of direction with the internet and the sharing of information, how it's changing and revolutionizing the way that we live and talk with people and share information. That this is something that is going to deserve our attention, that is going to affect us in a very, very real way. And I think that a lot of people don't know it's even happening, especially with these Boston bombings going on over the last week. This kind of slipped through the House of Representatives without a whole lot of people knowing about it. Sorry, I got to cough somewhere.
It's terrible because the people that are passing this legislation have no idea what the internet is really used for. These are these old career politicians, and they pass through this legislation without fully reading it, without fully understanding the ramifications to businesses or the people's best interest.
Well, that's half true because lobbyists spent a lot of money to make sure that Cispa came back in many different forms.
Yeah, because it did get passed by the House before, but
It's a
the
hydra,
Senate threw it
man.
out.
You cut off one head and it just shows up in the form of a different bill.
Yep, I think this is the third time it's popped up, and this time it actually went through.
Yeah, so I mean,
It still has to pass the Senate, and it still needs to be signed.
Presidential signature.
Yeah, I mean, not that this is going to be, this is kind of pointless to mention, but an Anonymous, which is sort of like an internet hacktivist group, they did propose like an internet blackout on the 22nd of April,
tomorrow.
but unfortunately, that's the day this usually gets uploaded. So by the time you hear it, it'll already be passed. But I think it's important. You know, I actually do plan on supporting the actual protest because I think it's important to let even though I don't believe it really accomplishes anything, it's important to actually let the government know that actually what you think about something. You know what I mean? That this is not that shit ain't cool. Pretty much.
And if you need to get at President Obama to veto this if it ever gets to his desk.
But also to be proactive about it. Don't let the chance for these people to grab your data and use it maliciously. I mean, there are common sense steps that you can take right now in your browser and on your computer to prevent them from getting your data.
And
like,
the software
through the use
that
of,
we need
of
to get.
Tor, through VPN, browser extensions, a lot of these things. I know you had part of this.
What's a VPN?
Yeah, Mike, you had a list of the software that you thought that would be good.
Well, starting with what Jeff said on the VPN, virtual private network. Essentially, virtual private network is you can connect two networks over great distances without actually having to use the internet. Ooh. So what happens is for, like, let's say the standard user, like talking about just like college kids, whatever, the average user, you would pay for a service and you connect to their server, and then all data that is sent and received from the internet goes through their server first. Okay, so there are a few things you need to look for when searching for a server, a VPN service, and those are that they don't keep data logs. So they don't log IPs, they don't log what data passes through their server and everything, because if they do keep those, then the government can subpoena them and say, we want this data.
Yeah. Or they could be storing it in that Utah facility without you even knowing about it.
Exactly. So if they don't keep that information, then you're protected. Also, then the encryption, the link needs to be encrypted, in a good form of encryption, not some bobo encryption that
scan my PC now
can be broken. So I mean, a good website. You can just search for it on the internet. A good service that I know a lot of people use is called privateinternetaccess.com. They're not like affiliated with us or anyway or sponsor us, but I mean, just to get people out there thinking about it, So
that being said, if you'd like to sponsor the podcast, please send an email to mentalrepspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so instead of connecting to your ISP first, whether you have Comcast or AT&T Uverse or whatever, you connect to the VPN, and then they contact the internet from there.
Okay.
And so it helps protect your.
Is this free software that you can find online, or you have to go buy it, or? You should pay for it, because if you don't pay for it, you're not going to have a reliable connection. The other things to think about are there data limits, are there bandwidth caps? So those are all things to take in account for too. Reliability of the service too. So do some research and look it up. And very simple and easy to install. Every website, every service, they're going to have very detailed information on how to set it up. Very simple. You can get it on your mobile device. You can install it on your Mac, your PC, Linux, whatever your operating platform is.
Commodore 64.
Yeah.
We got this.
So
another thing that's very easy to install are browser extensions. Talk about like AdBlock Plus. I haven't seen a pop-up ad on the internet in like a year and a half. It is the best thing.
Nice.
When you're browsing the internet and you don't have to deal with that clicking out bullshit.
Yep.
That's what makes me stuck on Google Chrome. That AdBlock Plus makes
AdBlock Plus is very good. Do Not Track is also very good. The things that prevent people from checking your data. Also Ghostery, the ability to look at who is making connections to your computer and what data is being broadcasted. So, I mean, the average internet user doesn't realize like their clicks are
Just
being
about
recorded. Their
everything
Google
you do on
searches
your
are being
computer.
recorded.
Take the information. I think it's important for everybody, and I'm trying to do this myself, is to take the information that we're getting and act accordingly. Because, you know, it's so easy for us to think, oh, okay, well, this isn't going to affect me, until next thing you know, it's right on your doorstep, and you're dealing with some serious privacy issues. And what can they take from your information to misconstrue like this false like narrative of like, okay, try and set you up for some, who knows what they can. And again, anybody's hands getting their hands on your information is an issue. So who's to say that it's going to be safer in the government's control rather than? I just don't understand how that rationale.
2 points about Cispa is that, you know, what about the transfer of this information from these websites or whatever that are collecting this our data, our user data, and giving it to the government? They just said that it would go to the Department of Homeland Security first, and then they would see where it goes from there. But the problem is, what if some of this information is leaked? You know,
Exactly.
And you know, in whatever way. I mean, you don't want. The best analogy I can make is you would never want someone standing outside your window and staring in 24/7. A police officer just standing there looking in your window, or just any regular Joe Schmo.
Or even, what's even scarier is they're looking at you through your webcam on your fucking computer, or your PS3 or your Xbox,
or your cable receiver.
Yeah,
there was a story in the news a couple months back that they were finding cameras in cable receivers, and for no known purpose, they didn't really understand why that they had cameras built into them, but they want to watch you while you're watching television.
And they're not only going to use that information for their, you know, governing purposes or whatever, their policing purposes, but they're going to sell that information to other companies so they can better target how to advertise to you. And they're going to say, oh, this guy's got a bunch of sports shit in his room, so I'm going to send this I'm not going to send him Barbie ads. You know, you see some girl who's got a pink room, you're going to send her Justin Bieber stuff. And they can literally hone in on that, because it's all about, in advertising, reaching your demographic. And if they can find a better way to hone in on a certain demographic, that is priceless to them. To be able to find, okay, I'm not wasting a bunch of money on making sure that this little girl can see this ad for a Chevy commercial. I can actually make sure that it's somebody who has a license and has the option of buying a Chevy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, it's already ongoing now. If you, whenever you search for something, it's usually tailored to your relevancies from your email address based on what you enter in your email and send out to people. Google uses that to determine your searches. So if you're at home and you search to something, you can get completely different results than if you were to go to another computer that's not your own and search for the same thing, because Google knows how that particular profile thinks, and they know what your particular interests are in that way, so they're more likely to put. I mean, in a way, again, it's one of those a gift and a curse things. In a way, it attempts to put what is most relevant to you towards the front. So it can be a good thing. It can be a boon. It can help and make things quicker, but at the same time, it's also bad because they essentially determine what you find on Google.
And it also isolates you in terms of search results, so that you're only looking at the things that are good for you, like based on their assumptions.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
Who's to say you didn't want to search for something that won't show up based on your previous search history?
Yeah, that's why.
Maybe I wanted to find something different, not something that I commonly view, but something outside of my current or usual scope.
That's what drives me crazy with media and having to be somewhat, being involved in it and covering the news. When people say and use the excuse that, oh, we're just giving the people what they want, and that drives me nuts, because I know that yes, there are certain. Why is Honey Boo Boo and Jersey Shore getting so much ratings, and why do people like watch that so much? But the fact that they could try and take any fault away from themselves, having to have a responsibility of what you put out there, being the news or entertainment or whatever, and just say, oh, it's just because this is what people want and what they're interested in. I think that, yeah, that's true in a lot of ways, but to say that it's completely, we're just giving the people what they want by shoving all this crap down their face and not trying to, if you're going to have this like, we're here to protect the people, then why don't you protect the people from themselves and put out, why are we getting so much useless information when there's so much more to be out there that deserves to be said and have its day? Well, we're all sitting here talking about Honey Boo Boo and the Kardashians. I don't get it. I don't think that people are all clamoring for Kim Kardashian news. I think there's some people who are, but not all people. So why is she all over the news? Why are we talking about Beyonce's inaugural ball, whether she actually sang or not, or Michelle Obama's bangs? Who the fuck cares?
That's distraction news, and
but that's
people
the norm.
occupied. Yeah, it is.
The norm.
It's sad.
It's sad.
Yeah.
And there's shit going on this week. This Texas fertilizer plant explosion. We had another earthquake in China where 208 people. What is this? 3 years climbing to 208 with 1,000 serious injuries. It's just nuts, man. There's so much shit going on in the world. Way more relevant.
The Waco plant explosion was crazy. Did you see the videos?
Yeah,
man. On YouTube?
Scary stuff. I was covering that the whole morning that was going on from the second I walked into work, and just seeing the little footage come out and everything, the explosion, you could see the power behind it, and it just put out this shockwave.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Oklahoma, living in Oklahoma during the Murrah's building bombing, and it was a U-Haul or Ryder truck, one of the two, packed full of fertilizer. And you see that when you see the explosion on there. I mean, if you look at the Murrah building bombing after the bomb went off, forensics, when EMT and stuff got on the scene initially, they had no idea what happened. They were just no idea what could have caused this much destruction. And it's scary. And since then, they've put a lot of restrictions on the type of fertilizer you can buy, and they monitor, who's buying it and things of that nature.
They had said that the plant had not been inspected since 1985, and that they were holding over, 1,300 times the legal limit of the certain type of ammonia fertilizer. Who the hell?
How does that slip through the cracks?
Money.
Yeah,
you have to pay for inspections,
you do,
and if your inspections fail, you have to pay to fix them.
Yeah,
so it's much easier to just be yeah.
I don't know what's worse: the fact that they can stockpile that kind of explosive on one area without oversight, or the fact that there was an apartment complex right next to the chemical plant. Are you kidding me? Why would you build that there?
Unreal.
The potential for destruction and loss of human life would.
No, why would you build it? But why would that be allowed to be built there?
You'd think that some sort of zoning guy
carelessness,
would be
greed.
You can't build this here.
Just stupid. It just drives me crazy when I hear something like that. That could be avoided.
When you reduce human lives to numbers, man, it's much easier to make a lot of these decisions when you don't have to consider the actual person when they're just a number.
Yeah. And
there's a serious lack of empathy going on with these people running these companies. Everybody should just
look at Monsanto down. Just bought that bee company.
Yeah, man.
That Bee Logics or whatever.
Everybody.
Well, you got to give them credit, man. When someone's talking shit about you, you just go straight to their mom and be like, "Hey, tell your son to shut the." Oh, you know what? Matter of fact,
how about I just buy it?
Exactly. I'll handle this.
I really think that all these heads of corporations and stuff should sit down one day and just overdose on acid just once.
Just take a shroom trip.
Yeah, man. Just experience that sort of ether where everything is one and you can relate to everyone.
And you start to realize you and your freaking money and all this bullshit.
We're all in this together, man. And once you start separating people based on whatever bullshit you want to separate them with, it devalues the human life to the point where the shit is in the news every day.
Get our priorities reorganized, man. It seems like there's so many people who are just caught up in this way of thinking. We've been desensitized and beaten into this this way of thinking and this materialistic, superficial, my shit is more important than everybody else, and if I can fuck somebody over in order to get what I want, that's just the name of the game. And that's how shit works when it's I mean, yes, there's so many good things that are forged out of bad circumstances and whatever, but it's so unnecessary to put people and go through certain things just for temporary monetary gain or whatever. So we could say, okay, just because this is we know that this is a huge issue and this is probably not what should be done, but let's milk it for a few decades and we'll let few people die. We're going to have some, fucked up genetically modified crops, and people are going to be eating a bunch of shit filled with who knows what they put in there. They're flying around spraying who knows what in the fucking atmosphere, and I'll be that geoengineering is something that we do need to a certain degree because of how we are treating this earth, but who knows in the end to what extent and what they're pumping into our bodies. That they literally, if you go to the store to buy food or any period, or you're even trying to grow crops in the United States, these poor guys going on camera with their faces blacked out, these farmers who are scared to talk about this Monsanto thing because they think that they're going to get cut off. And, it's so sad to see that this is a state of affairs, that big business can have such a large stake in something as essential and fundamental as our food.
And our genes.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I know it was in the news recently that they were trying to patent a certain gene. What was the story?
Oh, what was that? I think Mike brought that up. That it was somebody was trying
to not Monsanto, but a company called Myriad. They have been they spent a lot of time and money, $500 million, in fact, for research on two specific genes. The BRCA1 and the BRCA2 genes, and both those genes indicate an increased risk of breast and ovarian cancer. So the Supreme Court is seeing a case right now that would either allow them to they want to own the current process for testing the gene and isolating the gene. So for for testing purposes, that means any sort of test that they come up with for the doctor's office or whatever. But then more importantly is, if you want to patent something like that, whatever, but when it comes to actually the medicine behind it and what's in the best interest for the people, when you start patenting the genes themselves and you own a piece of everyone's DNA code, how does that promote helping the medical industry in any way, shape, or form?
And as we continue to be able to manipulate that gene and code, and we were doing brain mapping, and we already got mapped out DNA strands and all this. So who's to say that as we continue with exponential growth of technology and these things continue to merge, that how they can affect your gene? I mean, who knows? Really, I mean,
basically, in the future, you're gonna go to different companies to get different superpowers.
Yep.
So you're gonna have to go to the Nike subsidiary if you want to get running implants.
Usain Bolt gene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want to get some running implants, and you're gonna have to go to the Echo if you want to get the implants in your skin that makes you more resistant.
There's no way you can have all of that with just one planet. We're gonna have to get into other planets by that time, because there's just gonna be too many bad motherfuckers on this planet trying to run shit or do their thing, and it's gonna be wow, we need to there's not enough room for the both of us on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Did you play Deus Ex, the new one?
I
Deus
did
Ex?
a little bit. I didn't beat it though. I didn't get too far. That shit was hard as hell, man. You get 6 bullets for an entire mission and shit.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna
call. To kill someone.
I'm gonna call bullshit on some shots fired recently. Just yesterday at the 420 celebration in Colorado, I guess it was Denver, they had 2 people injured, and there was scattered crowds through this in the downtown area for the 420 celebration there, and I guess a man and a woman were shot, and they're expected to survive. They should be okay. The police are quote-unquote looking for the suspects. Several people thought, I guess, that firecrackers were going off, and all of a sudden this guy fell to the ground and started bleeding. His dog was shot too, and this guy saw him fall, and he was grabbing his leg, so he made this makeshift tourniquet, put it around his leg, and it was very strange because he said that the guy was screaming, he was looking for his girlfriend, and he found out she was okay. Then very quickly the cops showed up. In less than a minute of the shots being fired, the cops showed up, threw him in an ambulance, and they left. And right after this comes out, these, I guess, advocacy, Smart Colorado, a citizens advocacy group for opposition of marijuana. They said that I think this sends a clear message to the rest of the nation and the world about what Colorado looks like. Does the behavior of the participants of these events reflect well on our state? So the politicians are already trying to get their little grimy hands on this, and who knows the origins of it. You got, there could be foul play, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was some fuckery afoot there. Like, you don't see a bunch of potheads just firing, guns into an open crowd.
Who smokes a joint and then just becomes immediately angry? Oh fuck, I gotta shoot this guy now. People don't do that when they smoke weed. They relax and laugh and eat cookies.
But it has been known to affect different people in different ways, though.
Sure, but I mean, I'm not going to make the blank statement and say that somebody who's high isn't capable of, in other aspects of their life and in their brain, getting worked up to where they somehow do something like that. But it's something like like Anchorman. You're on acid and firing a bow and arrow into an open into a crowd of people or whatever. I don't think that it's like that. How they would like people to think that it makes you this crazy person or whatever who's going to do absurd things, and how this doesn't look well. This is our shot of making marijuana legal, and look what's already happening. It just seems like it fits all too well into a little narrative of the people who don't want it to be legalized. Yeah. Now I might, maybe somebody just fucked up. There was a shot, but okay, so they just came and scooped this guy up and took off. There was no investigation as to maybe where the shots came from. They didn't take pictures of where the guy was at, and they haven't found the suspects yet. It just doesn't, I don't know, dude. It doesn't sound right to me.
With Colorado and Washington both legalizing domestic use, I mean, I'm not surprised more of these stories don't show up.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that are opposed to this kind of stuff, to what ends would they go to push their agenda? And the same thing goes with our government in general. Like, I'm not trying to jump on any conspiracy bandwagon here, but violence solves problems.
Yeah.
To these people, and that's the motto of the Kraft Paramilitary Corp or whatever it was.
Oh, Churchill and all the. Oh, well, yeah. Go ahead.
Those people that were spotted sitting around the Boston bombings, the black and tan people wearing the uniforms and stuff, just scoping things out. Like, that's their motto. Like, what shit are they into? Just these questions need to be brought to people's attentions, and just to not nullify their existence and just live your life thinking that this stuff doesn't go on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that. I think that guys like Thomas Jefferson and our founding forefathers would be the first ones to tell you not to trust your government with a blind eye. A guy like JFK. I mean, you can take 5 minutes and look at that at that video of him on that speech about media and secret societies, and you can find out why that guy got murked in 5 minutes. Watch that video. In my opinion, he got murked. But there's a lot of things that point towards some fuckery afoot, and not all of it. You can't get. I hope that we're not coming across like conspiracy nuts, because it's all just in the pursuit of truth. And I think that conspiracy has been demonized into meaning, something that's really not in the mass, media and the way that they portray it. I think it's just the pursuit of truth, and I'm not trying to chop the heads off of any, world power or anything like that. I just think that we need to take steps towards living life in a better way. And I think that the government, having control over all of these things, has to have ownership of it. And also, these are people that we supposedly put in the office, and, they're speaking for us, when in reality, maybe some of these people need to get taken out of there. And I'm not saying that, again, it's not to say that we're like anti-government. Totally not that. It's just the pursuit of truth and trying to build a better life, because guess what? The next generation is going to come along, and they're going to have to deal with our whole set of issues, just like we're dealing with our parents' and grandparents' issues. And why not try and give them a leg up, and try and work towards a better, better way of living life. Be a fucking human being. I don't know. Don't be a cunt. Again, it always comes back to that. But Mike, I know that you... Anything else before we move on? I mean, I think that Mike had something prepared that he was going to talk about, and we had the quote of the week and, of course, our freestyle. But anything else you guys want to touch on just before we wrap things up?
If you'd like to donate to my Saddam Hussein butt-buying fund, you can contact me on Twitter.
Email the show, mentalrepspodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at mentalrepshow. Like us on Facebook at Mental Reps Podcast, and subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/Mental Reps Podcast. And again, we should be on iTunes very shortly, and we'll let you guys know when we get up and running on there. Mike, you had something you want to talk about real quick?
Just briefly. The whole show is about taking care of your mental health, and something I want to talk about was selfishness. Trying to gain perspective on selfishness, and a lot of times we always like to think that we are the victim of situations, of every situation, any and every situation, whether we're driving down the road and someone cuts you off or whatever. You don't know what's going on in that other car. That person may be distracted or whatever, distracted in a way where mentally, like, they're just found out that their father just died, or whatever the case may be. So don't always think of yourself as some sort of victim. It's a very selfish thing to think that we're always the victim and people are always looking out for themselves and blah blah blah. You can prevent a lot of these selfish tendencies by having empathy and being proactive. Trying to put yourself in other people's shoes, trying to think about what's going on in their situation. If you are mistreated by someone else, think about why, and then also for the proactive nature of it, if you're on the road and you're speeding, doing 90 miles an hour in a 60 mile an hour zone. Of course people are going to be driving the speed limit around there, and it's going to be hard to navigate traffic. I mean, you're breaking the law, so it's like doing things like leaving 5 minutes early or 10 minutes early, if you know that you're that type of person that runs late, it's like just leave a little bit earlier. So think in advance, think about what your actions are going to do before you do them. Because we do live in a very selfish society, and it's not always bad to think about yourself and to do a lot of introspective thinking, but don't always have yourself in mind when making decisions or reacting to a certain situation. And that's pretty much it.
Dude, I totally agree with all that. Yeah, it's so funny. I think often people, when they get upset with other people, it's because either they're doing something themselves or pointing out something that you're doing yourself that you don't like about yourself. If that makes sense. Where somebody, oftentimes you get threatened by people who are either like annoying or to you in a certain aspect, or they're doing something that is a reflective of a shortcoming of yourself, and we can often translate that into anger for them when really that person probably most likely isn't even doing anything that bad. It's something that we notice, that a thing within ourselves that we don't like. I know that doesn't. I didn't explain that very well, but it's something that I've thought about. That
I think a good example of that would be like white knights. So, the expression like what a white knight is, those guys who go out of their way to defend women who don't need defending.
Absolutely.
The reason why I personally hate white knight is because I used to be a white knight when I was a teenager. That stupid guy who was just, oh yeah, tell me about that guy.
Feminist.
He's just a great, well, not really male feminist, but just the guy who would just like latch onto that chick and she would tell you about the other guy's an asshole,
this
but still
is my
go back
end.
and fuck
it
him
seems
anyway.
to be working.
Exactly, those kind of guys. Those kind of guys irritate the shit out of me, mostly because I used to be one of them. So whenever I see someone doing that, it just reminds me of that time. I'm like, you knew, you idiot.
Thanks for pulling through with the example.
Time and dignity.
Yeah.
Just walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are very selfish, very narcissistic, self-centered, superficial. It's like just I don't plain it. I shouldn't say people. A lot of people, and our culture is sick in a lot of ways. So unfortunately, it's the truth. But there are a lot of good people out there.
Absolutely.
And also, just going along with what you said, try and make sure to continue to cultivate relationships with those good people that you meet, because there are a lot of assholes out there, and their good habits are going to rub off on you, and hopefully vice versa. Yeah, dude. And if that wraps up what you're going to say, just real quick, the quote of the week: there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil to one who is striking at the root. Henry David Thoreau. And I think that's pretty indicative of the conversation that we had today. It kind of goes along with it, that there are a lot of things going on in this world. There's a lot of people who are hacking away at what they believe to be what it is that they're in this life to be doing, and a lot of them are either sidetracked or they are aiming at the wrong thing. And to try and get to the root of the problem, try and get to the essence of what it is that we're here for, and how we're going to treat other people. Because, I mean, this is just, it's 2013, people. We got to get our shit together. I mean, really. They've just had this, in Georgia, this prom that...
Oh, God.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah, the segregated
prom.
I was appalled.
In Georgia, they're
absolutely appalled.
We're still doing this shit.
Yep.
2013.
Yep.
Come on, people. We could do better than that. Like, this is what...
Still waters run deep.
Yeah, I'm
I
telling
mean,
you,
it's
man.
just... It's appalling.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And just try and be better people. You know? Try and be a better person you are today than you were yesterday. Same goes for tomorrow. That's all you can really ask. And if you actually make those small little goals, then maybe, you know... And I bet a lot of you, you know, you're not assholes, especially if you're probably listening to this and we kept your attention this long.
Speak for yourself, Brian.
Well, what I'm saying is not that they're not assholes because they're listening to us, but, you know, they're at least somewhat... They give us a shit, some sort of a shit about, you know, how we're going to interact together as human beings and what we got to do, and just try and be good people. You know, that's all we're saying too. And let's try and laugh and share some good information, cultivate good relationships with our friends, and just not be cunts. It's as simple as that. Let's try and make the best of this shit. Who knows what we can do? We might be able to do something a whole lot cooler than we thought we even think is possible. So. Don't cut ourselves off of that either. All right, we already mentioned that everybody to reach us on the emails, contact us on the social networking, and I know that Jeffrey has the beat of the week on deck, and we're going to fail miserably again for you guys as we try to rap and freestyle. Word.
Yeah, let's be it. It's
Word.
sick too, man. It's a nice beat. I like it.
FLYamSAM. I guess I'll start this shit off.
Do it.
Man, these people walk around just lost in the haze. The news headlines, they just leave you amazed. It's just, man, this fucking shit is too rough. Man, asking questions. Don't tase me, bro.
It doesn't matter because the day's really long, though. We're gonna keep trying, seeing where we can go. Everybody's moving, people left and right. We're gonna keep trying to make everything all right.
Hey, they call me Big Dyke. I had to go out and buy my own frickin' mic so I could fill in for Victor, Mr. Jet setting for Cali, leaving all of us in the dust while he goes looking out for some magical pixie dust.
Oh, worm shit. Mental Reps Podcast. We hacking at the branches of evil. We getting to the root of the problem. Y'all don't know what the fuck is going on. We're trying to help out with that situation. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about here. I gotta get better at this. I'm horrible.
Maybe some
Thanks
preparation.
for listening, folks.
We love you guys.
It's been a blast.